I was standing in his kitchen, holding my phone like it was evidence at a crime scene, and he was laughing. Not a nervous laugh, not an awkward laugh, a satisfied laugh. That is when I knew I had just played exactly the role he wanted me to play. He had mentioned her name 3 times in 10 minutes. Sarah from work. Sarah, who apparently understood his jokes. Sarah, who sent him a funny meme at 11 at night. And I was supposed to act like I did not notice, like my stomach was not twisting into knots, like I was not silently cataloging every micro expression on his face when he said her name. I want you to understand something right now. If you have ever felt that specific brand of crazy, where you know something is wrong, where your gut is screaming at you, but the person in front of you is acting like you are imagining things, you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not crazy. What I am about to walk you through is a manipulation tactic so precise, so calculated, that by the time you realize what is happening, you have already handed over your power. It is called triangulation. And here is the dark promise I am making you. By the end of this, you will know exactly how it works, why it worked on you, and how to make sure it never works again. Because I figured it out. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let me take you back to the beginning, because that is where the trap gets set. When I met him, he was everything I thought I wanted. Charming in a way that felt effortless, attentive in a way that felt rare. He asked questions about my life like he was studying for an exam. What did I dream about? What made me feel alive? What did I fear most? I remember thinking, finally, someone who actually sees me. But he was not seeing me. He was taking notes. He was creating a mental photograph of who I was in that moment and filing it away for future use. I was not a full, evolving human being to him. I was a script, a role in a fantasy he had already and written. And for a while, I played that role perfectly. He called me every night. He sent me paragraphs of text about our future. He talked about the trips we would take, the life we would build, the way he had never felt this way before. It felt like standing in the sun after years of cold. I was being put on a pedestal, and I did not even recognize it as a warning sign. But then something shifted. It started small, a comment here, a comparison there. He mentioned an ex-girlfriend once, casually, while we were watching a movie. She used to love this film, he said. She had great taste. Then it was a coworker. Then it was a friend. Then it was a stranger at a coffee shop who smiled at him. And every single time he brought up another woman, he watched my face. I did not realize it at first. I thought I was being paranoid, but my body knew before my brain did. Every time he dropped a name, my heart rate spiked. My jaw clenched. I felt this low-grade panic. Like I was losing ground, I did, not even know I was standing on. That is triangulation. It is the deliberate introduction of a third party, real or imagined, into your relationship to create jealousy, insecurity, and competition. And it works because it bypasses your logic and goes straight to your nervous system. Let me tell you about the night it escalated. We were supposed to have dinner together. I cooked. I had cleaned. I had dressed up because he once mentioned he loved when I wore blue. He showed up an hour late, distracted, scrolling through his phone. I asked if everything was okay. He sighed. Sarah had a rough day at work, he said. She needed someone to talk to. I was just being a good friend. I felt that familiar cold dread. I asked how long they talked. He shrugged. A couple hours. No big deal. But it was a big deal to me, and he knew it. I could see it in the way his mouth twitched, almost a smirk, but not quite. He was testing me, waiting to see if I would react, waiting to see if I would compete, and I did. I asked why Sarah could not talk to her own friends. I asked why he prioritized her over our plans. I asked if there was something going on between them, And that is when he flipped the script. His whole posture changed. His shoulders slumped. His voice got quiet. He looked at me like I had just wounded him. "You do not trust me," he said. "After everything we have been through, you think I would betray you. I was just trying to be a decent human being, and you are making me feel like a horrible person." Suddenly, I was apologizing. I was the one who had overreacted. I was the one who was being controlling and paranoid. He walked out that night, and I spent hours wondering what was wrong with me. That is the victim-bully switch. 1 second, they are provoking you. The next second, they are the wounded party, and you are the aggressor. It is psychological whiplash, and it leaves you doubting your own perception of reality. Your gut was right. But I did not have the language for it yet. I thought this was just what complicated relationships felt like. I thought I was failing at being the cool, unbothered girlfriend. So I tried harder. I dressed better. I laughed at his jokes more. I stopped mentioning Sarah. I pretended I did not notice. When his phone lit up at midnight with her name, I performed the role of the person who was not bothered, even though I was quietly unraveling. And the more I performed, the worse it got. He started mentioning other women. A woman at the gym asked for his number. A colleague who complimented his presentation. A stranger at a bar who bought him a drink. Every story was designed to make me feel like I was in a competition I did not sign up for. And I was competing. I was hyper-aware of every other woman in his orbit. I was scanning his social media for clues. I was analyzing his tone when he talked about them. I was trying to be better, more interesting, more indispensable. I was exhausting myself, trying to be the version of me he fell in love with, not realizing that version never actually existed. It was a mental photograph, a static image he had taken during the beginning phase. And now that I was evolving, having needs, expressing opinions, showing up as a real, complicated human, I was deviating from the script. That is when the accusation started. "You have changed," he said. "You are not the person I fell in love with. You used to be fun. You used to be spontaneous. Now you are always worried about something." I felt like I was losing my mind. I was changing because I was in a constant state of anxiety. I was worried because he was giving me reasons to worry. But he framed it like I was the problem. And here is what I finally understood. He was not interacting with me as a real person. He was interacting with that mental photograph, the version of me that was compliant, adoring, and unthreatening, the version that did not have needs or boundaries, the version that existed solely to provide him with constant attention and validation. Real people are unpredictable. Real people grow and change and have bad days and ask for things. But a photograph never argues. A photograph never leaves. A photograph is fully controllable. So when I started showing up as a real person, when I expressed hurt, when I asked for reassurance, when I pointed out inconsistencies, I was breaking his internal fantasy. And rather than adapt to reality, he tried to force me back into the photograph by introducing competition. If I thought I could lose him, I would stop asking questions. I would stop making demands. I would shrink back into the role he wanted me to play. And for a while, it worked. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. We were at a party, and he spent the entire night talking to a woman I had never met. I watched from across the room as he leaned in, laughed at her jokes, and touched her arm. I felt invisible. I felt like I was watching my own replacement in real time. When I finally walked over, he introduced me as his friend, not his girlfriend, his friend. I did not make a scene. I smiled. I shook her hand. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, locked the door, and tried to breathe through the wave of humiliation and rage. When I came back out, he was waiting for me. He looked concerned, almost tender. "Are you okay? You seem upset." And I snapped. I told him everything. I told him I was tired of feeling like I was competing for his attention. I told him I was tired of hearing about other women. I told him I deserved better than being introduced as a friend after months of being told I was the love of his life. And do you know what he did? He laughed. That same satisfied laugh from the beginning of the story. He told me I was being dramatic. He told me I was imagining things. He told me that if I was this insecure, maybe we were not right for each other. Then he walked away, and I stood there in the middle of that party, realizing that I had just been discarded for refusing to play the game. In the weeks that followed, when I finally had the space to think clearly, I understood what had been happening. He was never going to choose me because I was never a real person to him in the first place. I was a character in a story he had written, and the moment I stepped out of that role, I became expendable. The women he triangulated me with, whether they were real or exaggerated or entirely fabricated, were not the point. They were tools. They were ways to keep me destabilized, desperate, and compliant. And triangulation works so well because it taps into something primal, the fear of abandonment, the fear of not being chosen, the fear that maybe, just maybe, we are not enough. But here's the truth. You were always enough. The game was rigged from the start. Let me walk you through what I wish I had known, the concrete strategies that could have saved me months of confusion and pain. You cannot win a game where the rules change every time you figure them out. When I was in the thick of it, I kept thinking that if I could just be more understanding, more patient, more attractive, he would stop. He would see me. He would choose me. But the whole point of triangulation is that you are never supposed to win. You are supposed to stay in a state of chronic insecurity, always performing, always proving, always competing. The moment I stopped trying to win his approval was the moment I started getting my power back. I stopped sharing the parts of myself that mattered. I learned there is a way to protect yourself when you are dealing with someone like this. Never share good news. When something wonderful happened in my life, I stopped telling him. I stopped looking for his validation or celebration because I knew it would either be minimized or turned into a competition. I shared my good news with people who genuinely celebrated me, my actual friends, my family. Never share bad news. When I was struggling, when I was hurt, when I needed support, I stopped going to him for comfort. I finally accepted that he was not capable of empathy in the way I needed. He viewed my pain as an inconvenience or as an opportunity to position himself as the hero while never actually helping, only share indifferent news, the weather, traffic, surface-level observations, things that could not be weaponized against me. This kept the peace on the surface while protecting my inner world from further abuse. This is not about being cold. This is about recognizing that not everyone deserves access to your vulnerability. Some people have shown you through their actions that they cannot be trusted with your heart. The next thing I learned was to become as emotionally interesting as a rock, flat, neutral, unreactive. When he tried to triangulate me again after we broke up, because of course he did, I practiced this relentlessly. He would mention other women. I would say, "That is nice for you." He would try to provoke jealousy. I would say, "Okay." He would fish for a reaction. I would give him nothing. At first, it felt impossible. My whole body wanted to react, to defend myself, to compete. But I realized that every emotional reaction I gave him was fuel. It was proof that he still had power over me. So I stopped feeding it. This is not about being mean. It is about refusing to play the game. It is about protecting your energy and your sanity by becoming boring to someone who thrives on drama. And here's what happened. He lost interest. Not because I suddenly became less valuable, but because I stopped being a reliable source of the chaos and attention he needed. And I felt relieved. There were times when I could not immediately leave. Logistics, finances, shared obligations. But I learned that even when my body was in the room, I could remove my authentic self from the situation. I stopped offering my real thoughts. I stopped sharing my dreams. I stopped giving him access to the parts of me that mattered. It felt like closing a door inside myself. He could interact with my exterior, the polite, functional version of me, but he could no longer touch my core. This is a conscious, strategic decision to protect your inner world from someone who has proven they will damage it. I practiced this when he tried to pull me back in. When he suddenly showed up with apologies, with promises, with the version of himself I had fallen in love with in the beginning. I listened to his words, but I watched his actions, and his actions never matched. The most painful lesson was accepting reality as it was, not as I wished it could be. I had to abandon the rescue fantasy. For months, I believed that if I loved him hard enough, if I understood him deeply enough, he would heal. He would become the person he pretended to be in the beginning. But the version of him I fell in love with was a performance. It was a construct designed to attract attention. It was never real. I had to accept that I could not love someone into being a better person. I could not sacrifice my own well-being on the altar of his potential. I had to stop expecting empathy from someone who only understood empathy as a tool for manipulation. Accepting reality meant grieving the relationship I thought I had while acknowledging the relationship I actually had. And that grief was real. It was heavy, but it was also the beginning of freedom. Let me tell you about what happened when I tried to leave. A few weeks after I finally ended things, my phone lit up. A long text message, an apology. He missed me. He realized what he had lost. He wanted to try again. He promised he had changed. And for a split second, I almost believed him. But then I remembered the pattern, the cycle, the way he had pulled me back in before, with almost identical words, only to return to the exact same behaviors within days. So I did not engage. I did not argue. I did not explain. I did not defend my decision. Because all of that would have been fuel. I deleted the message and blocked his number. And I want you to understand something. Not responding is not cruel. When someone has shown you through consistent patterns that they cannot be trusted with your vulnerability, protecting yourself is not only reasonable, it is necessary. This attempt to suck you back in is not about love. It is about control. It is about pulling you back into the fantasy when they sense they are losing their grip. The promises are not real. The change is not real. What is real is the pattern, and the pattern always reasserts itself. The only way to win is to refuse to play. Now let me be clear about something. You were not stupid or weak for falling for any of this. You were not. Triangulation works because it is designed to work. It preys on normal human needs, the need for security, connection, and belonging. It exploits the fact that most of us enter relationships in good faith, assuming the other person is operating with the same intentions we, are. But manipulative people do not operate in good faith. They operate in strategy. And once you know the strategy, once you can name it and see it clearly, you can protect yourself. You can trust your gut when it tells you something is wrong. You can recognize the warning signs, the too fast intimacy, the constant comparisons, the push-pull dynamic, the way you feel crazy, even though your concerns are legitimate. You can understand that this is not about you being inadequate. This is about someone who sees people as objects to be controlled, not humans to be connected with. If you are currently in a situation where you feel like you are constantly competing for someone's attention, where you are being compared to other people, where you feel destabilized and insecure despite doing everything right, you are not imagining it. That discomfort is your nervous system telling you that something is deeply wrong. Trust it. Start protecting your inner world. Stop sharing your vulnerabilities with someone who has weaponized them. Practice becoming unreactive. Practice removing your authentic self from situations where it is not safe. Start observing their actions instead of believing their words. And if you are already out, if you are in the aftermath, trying to make sense of what happened, know that clarity comes slowly, but it does come. You will stop questioning yourself. You will stop wondering if you were the problem. You will start recognizing the patterns, the tactics, the calculated nature of what was done to you, and you will rebuild, not the version of yourself they wanted you to be, the version you actually are. Recovery was not linear. There were days when I missed him, or more accurately, I missed the version of him I thought was real. There were days when I doubted my decision, but then I would remember the feeling, the constant low-grade anxiety, the obsessive thoughts, the way I had to monitor my own reactions to avoid setting him off, the IGI way I felt like I was slowly disappearing, and I would remember that I was not overreacting. I was finally reacting appropriately to an inappropriate situation. Ignore the words, watch the actions. When someone tells you they love you, but consistently treats you with disrespect, believe the actions. When someone promises to change, but repeats the same patterns, believe the patterns. When someone says you are too sensitive, but your sensitivity only emerged in response to their treatment, believe your experience. Words are cheap. Words are tools for manipulation, but actions reveal character, and consistent patterns reveal intent. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to stop trying to fix something that was broken from the beginning. You are allowed to recognize that some people are not capable of the kind of love you need, and that is not a failure on your part. You are allowed to prioritize your peace, your sanity, and your safety over someone else's comfort, and you are allowed to grieve what you thought you had while simultaneously feeling relief that it is over. Triangulation only works if you stay in the game, if you keep competing, if you keep performing, if you keep believing that if you just try hard enough, they will finally choose you. But you were never in a real competition. You were in a rigged game designed to extract your energy and destabilize your sense of self. The moment you stop playing, the moment you walk away, the moment you reclaim your power, you have already won, not because you beat them, but because you chose yourself. So if you are standing where I was standing, holding your phone, feeling crazy, wondering if you're overreacting, let me tell you what I needed to hear. You are not crazy. Your feelings are valid. Your gut is telling you the truth. And the best thing you can do for yourself is to start protecting your inner world. Stop engaging with the chaos and begin the slow, difficult work of extracting yourself from the fantasy. It will not be easy, but it will be worth it. Because on the other side of this, there is clarity, there is peace, there is a version of you that does not have to perform or compete or shrink to be loved. That version of you has always been enough. You just needed to get away from someone who convinced you otherwise. Trust yourself, protect yourself, and when you are ready, walk away. You deserve a relationship where you do not have to question your worth, where you do not have to compete for scraps of attention, where you do not have to perform to be seen. And that relationship starts with the one you have with yourself. Choose you, every single time. That is how you win. Listen, if this resonated with you, if you felt seen or validated or less alone, hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. Because the more people who understand these tactics, the fewer people get trapped by them. That is what this whole channel is about. Giving you the language and the tools to protect yourself so you never have to stand in someone's kitchen feeling crazy again. You have got this. I promise you, you have got this. And I am going to be right here, breaking down every single manipulation tactic they use, so you can see it coming before it lands. You are not in this alone. We are building a community of people who refuse to be gaslit, who refuse to shrink, who choose themselves, and I want you in it. So stick around and let us keep pulling back the curtain on these games together, because knowledge is power, and you deserve every single piece of power you can get. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. You are worth it.